Okay, welcome to this 5-minute lesson on Introduction to Computer Hardware. First thing, a little knowledge review of binary. See if you can convert these two numbers into denary. Okay, so the answers are 51 and 38. So remember to put at the top your little 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, 128. Where these ones we count, so it'd be 32 plus 16 plus the 2 plus the 1, and that's equal to 51. Remember to show you're working when you're working these out. All right, so today we're looking at computer hardware. Computer hardware is simply the physical computer parts which make up the computer. So things you can see, you can touch. These can be categorized into internal and external. So internal hardware is stuff which is inside the computer system where you see you need to open it up to see it. External is things that you see all the time, such as your keyboard, your mouse, your monitor. So there's a little video which I'm going to show you how the internal components fit together and whereabouts they sit within a computer system.
Inside a desktop standard computer, and there's a few things here. So the main thing you're going to see at the bottom here is this the big board at the bottom is the motherboard. So the motherboard is basically where all of the components fit into this, so then they can communicate with each other. So if we're likening it to biology, it's like your nervous system, so it sends the messages to all the different areas within the computer system. So on the motherboard, we have our RAM, so our read-only memory, random access memory, and this is used to store current working programs and instructions. And obviously you can see this clips into the motherboard and links into there. Under this here, which is our fan and our heat sink here, so this is our fan and our heat sink. Underneath that here, you'll see this. This is our CPU, our processor, which we can take out here. So you can see this is our processor, and this is where all the calculations happen within the computer system, and this is what does all of our calculations. So in essence, a CPU is a giant calculator, and obviously we'll look in more detail at how a CPU works throughout the different tutorials. Just pop that back in here. The other key component is this here, which is our hard drive. So our hard drive is our secondary storage that stores all of our videos, movies, software, our operating system, everything like that. On here as well, under this here is our graphics chip. So that deals with all of our graphics. So, you know, what you see on your screen, your sound and things like that. There's obviously a CD drive up at the top here, and then this here is our power supply unit, our PSU. So that is a brief introduction to computer hardware, how it fits together.
Okay, so we're going to look at the input process output model. So this model denotes how the computer system takes inputs, does something with it, and then outputs something. So what happens here, the first thing is an input comes into the system. So this can be from, let's say, a keyboard, so the user presses A. Comes into the processing, this is then decoded within the CPU, stored in memory, and comes back. And then obviously the output would be what's going to happen as a course of this process. So the process would be, I pressed A, I want A to appear on my Word document on the screen, so the output would be an A appearing on your screen. And then this process repeats again and again and again. And that's the idea of this input process output model. So as we just discussed before, is inputs are something where it provides data to the computer system, and output displays data after a process. And there's a couple of examples of types of inputs and outputs there. What I'd like you to do now is pause the video and have a go at this revision sheet and answer the questions. Okay, so hopefully we have got back with this and we have put in our correct answers, so you can have a look and check those. This is our additional reading around this subject, and what I'd like you to do is pause the video and have a go at this question. Okay, so these are 6-mark questions. We need to make sure we read it clearly. So this is asking for the accessibility of students with disabilities. So what type of things could we have to make their use of technology a lot easier? And the key thing is this describe. So this means not just stating it, we need to describe why, and that's the key thing with a 6-mark question. So you need to think about point, evidence, and explain. So the key things are, which we should have discussed, and are things like Braille keyboards, text-to-speech, Braille printers, puff switches, rollerball mice, things like that which can help, eye trackers. So anything around that would be exactly what you need. And then at that point, what you should have done is then explain the why and how it would help them. And that would have been sufficient for your marks. Lastly, I'd like you to give a go at building a PC. So this is a virtual way of building a PC. So if you go to this URL here, and you can actually look at different internal hardware, build your own PC and customize it just to reinforce what we've looked at today.